Becky. I'm going to show you how you can make really fun pieces like this using resin that is just about ready to expire because it is getting so thick, and some of the open hoops. So the first step is you're going to have your open hoops. I'm actually not going to drill this one. I'm going to actually put these pieces here so that I don't have to drill. You'll need some texturizing pads, some stir sticks, and some toothpicks, a little Q-tip, and some mixed resin. So I'm going to move that all aside. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and clean with a little bit of rubbing alcohol these pieces here. And I'm going to do this by using a Q-tip and just dipping it right inside of there and getting some of the rubbing alcohol on there. The Nunn Design open hoops are actually made from solid brass, and they're a continuous loop, and then we plate them with 0.99 fine silver, and then we oxidize them. These are actually plated with the copper, and they're also oxidized. So I'm just using a little bit of rubbing alcohol to clean off any excess dirt that might be on the hoops. Sometimes the oxidization can be quite thick. I'm not getting much on these examples, but sometimes when you're cleaning them you might get a little bit of blackening. So you can see a little bit on there that will come off on the Q-tip. That's the oxidization releasing off the product. And I'm just cleaning those because it makes it easier and to not have the resin colorize with the oxidization if it's on there. In the next step, we're going to take our pads. These are texturizing pads. These are made out of rubber, and I'll just choose, let's try these two designs. To not have the resin stick to the pads when it's curing, I'm going to go ahead and put a little baby powder on my fingers and then rub it onto the pads, and this will help it so that it doesn't have any, it'll help release the resin from the pad when we lift it up later on, once the resin is cured. So just smear a little bit of the baby powder around onto the pad and make sure that it's fully covered. If you don't fully cover the pads with the baby powder, it will stick to it. You can see there's a little bit of, on that one right there, you can see that there was a little bit that was stuck on it. So I like to put my baby powder in a bag just because it's easy for me to stick my fingers in and out of. And now I'm just taking my pads and getting off that excess baby powder from there. Let's go ahead and give this a fresh sheet here to work from. So now we have our pads with the baby powder on them. I'm going to go ahead and wipe my hands to get all that baby powder off. And then I'm going to lay down my hoops onto the pads. Now we're ready to put the mixed and very thick resin into the hoops. You can see how thick this is. This is ideal. It could be even a little bit, no, this is probably just right. And what this allows it to do is, first of all, it won't seep out from underneath the hoop and run all over. And when it's time to release from the pad, it won't stick onto the pad. You can watch other resin videos and also tutorials seeing how to mix the Nunn Design resin. Well, I think I'm going to use a smaller toothpick when I work on this other one. Let's just start with this. So once I've put that resin down inside of there, I'm using my toothpick to bring it over to the edges and smearing it around on the pad. This will agitate any air that might get caught into those crevices. It'll also allow us just to move this thickening resin around. So do your best to try not get your fingers too close to that because it'll easily stick on there. Now I have enough of the resin in there, but I'm going to just move this around a little bit more, fill in this little gap. It will still move on its own, but let's go ahead and put a little bit. What I mean is the resin will still expand out slightly. It's not going to completely stay exactly where you put it. It'll continue to move around. So I'm just adding a little bit more resin onto the top part of here. You can see how thick that is. This is a great usage of resin that you might have mixed for another project and you just didn't have enough time to move all the way through the first project, and this is great for when it's too full. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take this out and I'm just going to fill this with a solid one, and then I'll show you how you can drill it. You can see this resin is getting very thick. And when it gets really thick like this, it gets stringy, so you need to just be patient. So I'm rotating and twisting the toothpick, and it helps break that string so that I don't get that all over. Now I'm going along the outside edge of the open hoop to agitate and make sure I don't have any air bubbles stuck down there. You can see that the resin is just getting to the side of where the hoop is, and then it stops. It's doing that because it is so thick, it won't run underneath that hoop area. And if it does, it's because your resin is more than likely not thick enough, or it might run underneath, and we can address that later when this is cured. You can just easily cut it off. Since the resin is so thick at this point, it's hard to prevent it from having any kind of air bubbles, but you can go ahead and use your breath and just do a hot huff on the pieces, and that will help the air expand and pop. Did you see that? Because it is getting so thick, there's not any ability for the air bubbles to rise to the surface. You can, that one did pop and it left a little bit of a crater. You can move around and poke at it with your toothpick and try to get those bubbles to the surface. But on this particular piece and this technique, the bubbles are just kind of part of the design. So after you have put that in there, you're just going to need to let this sit for about 6 hours until it is slightly tacky. About 6 hours into the curing process, the resin will be pretty hard to the touch, not completely cured. And I know that this is ready to peel back because I started to pick it up and just pull back, and you can see that the resin is releasing from the pad. If you wait too long, then it will just completely stick on there. So you want to make sure that you do this at that 6-hour mark when the resin is still at a soft cure stage, and it'll release from the texturizing pad. Just continuing all the way around and then moving towards the center here. And I'm trying not to pull too hard because you can see that it's still soft and it is kind of buckling down. And go ahead and once we put that down on a flat surface, it'll go right again. But there is our cured resin piece. As you can see, some of the resin seeped out, or at least expanded out just a little distance out of that back side. So to clean that up, you can take a pair of scissors or a pair of flush cutters and trim away that edge. So let me show you. This resin was a little bit thicker, so it still wasn't releasing from the pad, but we'll try that one in a second. Take the flush cutters and just go along the edges here and just kind of trim this away. You can also use a pair of just regular scissors that are fairly sharp. It's easiest to do this when this is in the soft cure stage, around 6 hours into the curing process. Then once that is trimmed away, just go ahead and place it onto a piece of plastic so that it can continue to cure, and it'll easily release from that plastic when it's all finished. So let's take a look at this one. This, on the other hand, is still, nope, it's releasing too, so go ahead and peel back the sides on this one. So if you didn't let your resin sit until it was really thick like that, it will just completely adhere onto this texturizing pad, and in fact it will remove the black rubber from the texturizing pad when you go to remove it. It looks like I have a little bit of that black on there. We'll go ahead and let that set up.